Great. Well, welcome everybody to our next installment here of our Community Murals Sacramento Artist Talk. Tonight we have artist John Osgood joining us. My name is Donald Gensler. I am the manager for our Art and Public Places program, and I run our Community Murals Sacramento program here in the city of Sacramento. So we're really thrilled to have you join us today, and also equally thrilled to share some work with John Osgood here at this Artist Talk. John was one of 10 lead artists that were part of Community Murals Sacramento, and John's project, as you'll see a little bit of today, is in District 6 on Folsom Boulevard. But the real purpose of this talk is to see also the work that John did leading up to his work here in Sacramento, and even some of the things that he may have been working on that he's currently working on now. I'm going to ask that everybody kind of leave your questions to the end. Feel free to leave your camera on or turn your camera off. We do ask that you do mute until the end, until we open it up for questions. And at that point, you can ask questions in the chat or just turn your camera on, use the raise your hand function. We usually try to leave at least about 10-15 minutes at the end for questions, and we'll be stopping tonight at about 6:30. So again, thank you so much, everybody, for being here and joining us for this Artist Talk with John Osgood. John is a contemporary painter and muralist. He grew up actually in Washington State, but he currently lives in the San Francisco Bay Area. He graduated with a Bachelor of Arts from Washington State University, and he minored in fine arts. John's created murals really all over the West Coast, UK and Spain, and exhibited in multiple galleries throughout the United States. He regularly exhibits his work at Voss Gallery in San Francisco, and he's been commissioned with his work at a number of different places like Chicago Title, IBM, Microsoft, Pratt Fine Arts Center, just to name a few. So we're thrilled to have John working with us as part of Community Murals Sacramento, and thrilled to have him tonight giving his artist talk. So John?
Right on. Thank you for having me. Tonight I'm going to talk about my artwork and my journey. I am going to start off by describing how I got to where I am. And like everybody, it usually starts off like, what did you do when you were a kid? And I was no different from anybody else. I was always drawing. I had something in my hand. I wanted to recreate it. And that's what I did. I was very lucky that my parents were very supportive in what I wanted to do. They were always offering me to get supplies. You know, they wanted to know, oh, you want to try an instrument? I'm like, nah, I'm going to stick with this drawing thing. And it was one of the best things that could have happened, because they really stoked the fire. And I credit my parents a lot to allowing me to keep this process going. Growing up, I had the pleasure of meeting somebody, one of my best friends to this day. His name is Dan Volker, and he's an amazing charcoal artist who lives in Washington State. But I met him around 3rd grade, and we became fast friends. And we had a group of friends that would spend all of our time drawing, mimicking comics and cartoons and Disney type stuff, like maybe Robotech too. But it seems like they were always a little bit more technical than me, and I was doing more like Rosie from the Jetsons or something like that, which is fine. You know, I was taking my own path, right? But it was fun. It was sort of like, it wasn't like really competitive, but it was a fun time working with all these people that I did. And this went all the way through high school, where I was working with my buddy Dan and learning the process of watercolors and color theory and stuff like that. it was in college where I was still creating artwork at Washington State University. And I was home from a break and I was working on a collaborative piece with my buddy Dan. And he's like, what are you going to do after college? And I'm like, I have no clue. And he's like, well, if you think you're going to be an artist, you better put some, processes in motion. And I wouldn't say I got freaked out, but then I'm like, how do I make this happen? I wasn't selling artwork. I didn't even have artwork to sell. And I put that on my to-do list. I was like, I just need to get one domino to fall. And that I sold my first piece of artwork. I think it was 1997 was I sold my first piece of artwork. And then it just sort of like the light bulb hit. I'm like, okay, it was a hustle. And I'm like, I'm making this artwork. I can talk about my artwork and people are interested in it. And how do I keep this going? It was after college when I continued to do all these things. And I was living on my own in Queen Anne, a suburb of Seattle. And I was painting and drawing, and I was following heroes of mine, like a Jeremy Fish or a David Cho or a Dave Kinsey. They were all into skateboards and spray paint. And I was really trying to figure out how I was going to make my mark and keep selling artwork and stuff like that. It was around that time when I met my wife, and her background is marketing. And when she saw the work that I was doing and the amount of work that I had and my apartment, which was my studio, she extended her hand and said, would you like some help with this? And I'm like, please, I will take this help. And it was shortly after that is when we started our gallery. Let me get to the screen share right here. Of course, it's not going to be up right now. All right, we're hang tight. Let me shut this. Sorry, team. And here we go. Back to the Zoom. Share the screen. Be Heard Gallery. Be Heard Gallery was, well, actually, let me step back a second. Be Heard was the skateboard brand that I created in my head even before I knew Michelle. And when we started coming up with ideas for gallery names, I let her know that, like, oh, that's a skateboard brand I've been dealing with, or trying to come up with, and I called it Be Heard, like, if you speak, you'll be heard. So she loved it, and then we were in business. And we had 3 iterations of our gallery at 3 different spots. This was the last one, but we started off in our gallery doing a clothing line. And I mean, at first, we didn't even know we were going to do a gallery. Let me step back a second. I was going to run a studio, and I had somebody that was supposed to come in, and then they bailed. And then my wife was like, we should just do a gallery. And we had the thinking, it's like, well, it wasn't the easiest thing of trying to break into the gallery scene. And my wife's like, we are going to build it ourselves. And I'm like, I love this idea. And in the process of building a gallery ourselves, we built a community of like-minded people. We found collectors. We found artists that we wanted to show. And I mean, I built like a really great group of friends that all helped each other and pushed each other to try to make the best show, the best art. And it was a really big family. Within Be Heard Studios, we created shows and we had events. This one right here was an event called Weave. In the pictures, you can see that we have tables and artists working. And the idea of weave came together. I was thinking of like the Harlem Globetrotters when they do a 3-man weave going down the court. And I was like, what if we had 3 artists with 3 canvas? One, they bring it there with a little bit of work on it, then they switch it when they get there, and then they switch it one more time. So then you have a 3-pack of artists working on 3 different pieces of artwork. And we did that a handful of times in the Seattle area. And it was a success. It was a really good time. And then after a while, we decided that we wanted to make a magazine, and we used the name Weave to incorporate the same idea of people in the Northwest working together and trying to promote Northwest art. Another thing that we did was an event called Face Off, where we would pit 2 artists together. That would be like 15 minutes. They'd have one idea that they would work on. And then you can see me on the mic there, trying to do my best auctioneering. And of any of those who know me, I would say I'm an extrovert. I'm kind of a ham. So I tried my best at being an auctioneer. I'm not going to do it right now, but I'll tell you, it was a lot of fun getting to get people to bid and, you know, get a little bit of money in these artists' pockets. Another group that we worked with at the gallery was a place called the Center on Contemporary Artwork, COCA. It was a long-standing artist group in the Seattle area. And it was really neat that we would get in there and do some of these type of shows where the artwork that was coming in there was a little bit different, and it shook things up. And it was a very fun experience to come into this place and put a new hat on what they were showing in there. Along with the show, we created a book with Coca, and we also had a mural day during a festival in this area called Georgetown, that's south of Seattle. And we had a huge wall where you can see on the front of this book, we had a whole bunch of artists collaborating on one mural. While I was working as a gallerist at our gallery, I was also a working artist. And with the 8 years that we worked with the gallery, I was really taking the time to figure out what I was making, why I was making it, and learning about the themes and style that I was creating. One of the themes that I like to paint a lot about is birds. I mean, birds are everywhere. I feel like they're a very free animal. They're very caring towards their young. This is actually a piece called Answered Prayers. In front of our house, we have a little nest, a little nook that birds can get into. And my wife and I, my son, were hanging little ribbons that we write little notes on. So we had all these little drapes of ideas and thoughts coming down from our tree. And then that's when we noticed that there were some oak titmouse birds in there. And, you know, this is what the theme of this painting became. Another one of my themes is faces. I really like the shapes and the iterations that a face can make. This one surprisingly has 2 eyes, 1 nose, a mouth, a chin, and a forehead. Whereas a lot of my work, I was like, hey, this guy can have 5 eyes. It doesn't matter, you know, it's up to me. But as you can see, the hair is a little bit more abstracted. This one, if I didn't mention, it was called Last Encounter. This came to fruition because, you know, you think you're going to have a last encounter with somebody at some time. I don't know, this one I think has a little bit more of a sullen feeling to it, but that's just me. Hopefully somebody sees this one and says it's dynamite, she's happy. And then there is an abstract side to the artwork that I work on. This piece on the left is called Faith in Humans. And I was painting this one when all of the issues during George Floyd were happening. And I was watching like documentaries on the LA riots, and there was just so many things happening. And There's a lot of faces in here, but I just wasn't really hitting all the cylinders that I wanted to. So I turn paintings, you know, and I turn them around to see what they can be in other ways. And I felt like this is the way that the painting landed. And faith in humans. This other one's called grounded. What is it called? The elements of being grounded. And I feel like there's a crown on top of this guy's head on the left-hand side up corner. There's a feather hanging off of his ear. There might be some sort of flower he's holding in his hand, but there is a lot of give and go, a push and pull, as I like to call it, in the painting, and just elements of being grounded. Felt like a good title for this piece. While working at the gallery, one of the best things that ever happened to me is running into people. Two of the people that I ran into became future mural partners of mine. One of them was called Sensei 23, Kevin Sullivan. And then the other woman is Zach Bonencap. We started in 2008, and this was our first piece that we made together. And it was one of the best things that ever happened to me because they were really talented artists, and I still had room to grow with my aerosol attack. And they really helped me loosen up the training wheels and take them off. So I really appreciate what Zach and Kevin have done for me. And I still work with Zach. We work on projects up and down the West Coast. And this is a piece that Zach and I did south of Seattle in the Georgetown neighborhood. This one is called Hexagon Florals. There was a mural previous to this one where Zach and I were painting, and he's like, let's just do hexagons, only hexagons. And I'm like, that sounds like a fantastic idea. We used only a certain color scheme. And then we just sort of like, wow, this is a winner. So then when we had an option to create another mural, we knew exactly what we wanted to do. And we got lucky enough to get this really nice corner spot. And it turned out really good. You know, people who know I'm down in California still like drive by and like, hey, did you do this? And I'm like, yeah, I did. Yes, I did. Along with Zach, you know, but it's always nice being noticed for your artwork out in the world. Here is another piece that we did up in Seattle at the Outlet Collection in Auburn. It's always fun when somebody comes in and they say like, hey, we just want something colorful, maybe something abstract, you know, somebody can walk up in front of and take a photograph in front of them. I'm like, okay, you know, so it's always fun to explore, like, you know, the degree of abstractions. And you can see some of the things like, I don't know if you can follow right there, but like, these are some of the like the feathers I make that I have up in the sun. But Zach and I collaborated to put this together, and it was a fun time putting this one together. Like I said, I am from the Pacific Northwest, and something that I really like to do is I'm inspired by Native American Lionform artwork and drawings. And I remember I was in high school and I was looking through like one of those paper magazines, and I seen somebody use the Lionform drawings to do graffiti words. And it resonated with me. And I was like, man, that is such a neat thing, you know, because I mean, just walking around, it doesn't take too long before you find an element of Lionform drawing in Seattle. I mean, it's like artwork on walls, manhole covers, people's clothing. I mean, the Seahawks logo is kind of Lionform drawing. So it really landed on me. And I really like to put it out there. It's a lot of fun to do. As you can see in this next piece, this is on an alleyway of a condo complex in a neighborhood of Seattle called Greenwood. And as you can see, I have birds in there, and I tried to mimic the colors that were in the vicinity of the area, and then adding all these S forms, ovids, you know, and having these green and orange type birds going on. Here's another piece I did up in Capitol Hill for New Amsterdam vodka. And they wanted something where somebody could stand in front of it again, but I feel like this shows some of my abstractions and a little bit of a line form right up in here. Working with New Amsterdam vodka was great. And if anybody's listening and you want to know why people come to you, is because you had a really neat website. Just saying, keep your website up to date and looking good. But they came to me and said they wanted 7 paintings, 7 36 by 24 inch paintings, and they bought the rights to them, and it was a good year after that project. Like I said, I am a lover of birds, and when people gravitate towards that theme for murals, I'm all about it. And here are the hexagons once again. This client had an idea for a worm and a bird, and I said, can I put some hexagons in there? And she was all about it. This was a project I did in Portland, and I did this one with Zach. So we wanted to stay close to like a blue-green idea, you know, not very too far from it, keep with some comfortable colors. But Portland is the rose city, so we had some abstract roses in there. You got Mount Hood right here, and this is a western meadowlark. It's the state bird of Oregon, and this is a super fun project to work on. This is a piece I did in Redmond, Washington on the Microsoft campus. And it's always so neat when a client comes to you and is like, this is your space, but what would you put up? And I was like, I've got a million ideas, because I mean, I've got black books upon black books upon black books, you know? And I took a handful of drawings and I photoshopped them together to put together this design. And it was a gnarly 10 days in August putting this piece together. Our dates got pushed back a couple times because of some drawing on caulking that I couldn't paint over top of. So like when you have about this much time and then they push you to this, you still get the job done. You still get the job done. That's the key. Here is another piece that I did in Danville. When I work in the summer, I just have my garage door open and there I am, I'll be working, and you get people just walking by and want to know what you're up to, you know, and I had a gentleman that was around the block from me who said, I'm interested in putting a mural in my backyard. I'm like, oh, what are you looking to have? And he's like, oh, my wife and I were thinking about stick figures drinking wine. I'm like, ooh, let me come over, take a look, and let me see what I can do. I'll take some pictures of the wall and measure it out, and then I can tell you what I can do for you. And as you can see, there's like some manicured concrete planters. To the left, he had a fireplace that was all concrete. He had these statues of egrets and GBHs, some great blue herons. And if you were to look over his house, you'd be looking at Mount Diablo. So I told him this idea. I did a really neat drawing, and he was like, okay, that beats the pants off of stick figures drinking wine. And then he went with this one. So I got pretty lucky to do it. Here's a recent one. I did this one in February in Stolstaff Park. That's in Redwood City in California. It was a shipping container. What they were asking for is they had 4 seasons, and on each side of the container, they had specific animals and foliage that were for specific seasons. And it was a lot of information to take in, but it was a lot of fun putting it all together And working with Redwood City was fantastic. If you have a chance to work with Redwood City, I would say try to get in on that action. Another thing that I get the pleasure to work with, some people, they don't want the mural painted, rather they would have like a smooth line, you know, or a smooth feel to the whole thing. So being able to work with people who do vinyls and licensed work is a pleasure to do, you know. It's you already have the artwork done, and you just have to find the right people to put up. Usually they have the right people, and you have to have the super high res photo and file for it. But when it turns out really nice, like this bird one with the pink and green is in a lobby in San Francisco. And then the blue and orange piece is for Verity Bank up in Seattle. When I'm not in my garage or I'm out on a site, I build a wall in my backyard, and it's a lot of fun just to throw out ideas, practice. I like showing my son what I do, and if he has any questions, and I let him get out there and try it himself, you know, safely. And it's always interesting what he puts out. So I try to let anybody come back out there and give it a try and see what I do for a living. In December, I did a mural for this business called 5 Iron Golf in Seattle. And it was funny to see on Instagram that Macklemore, after the place opened, invested in this place called 5 Iron Golf. So, I don't know, and it's always fun having a celebrity in front of your mural posing, schmoozing with a golf club, I guess. But this was a really fun project to work on. The woman that I worked with, the best projects are the ones where people are like, the world's your oyster. What do you got? Let's see what you can do. And it's just like, what do you think of these images? Color these, okay? You color them, bam, let's do this. It's the best. I think that's where you get the most out of artists, when they can do exactly what they want. And then that brings us to the Sacramento mural between Folsom and Kiefer for our Team D6. This mural came together through community talks, sessions on Zoom. And the theme that we put together was sort of a past to present. And through the conversations we had, we learned that the area did at one time hold strawberry fields, that there was Japanese farmers out there working these strawberry fields. The woman in the middle with the headdress is a Nisenan, an image of a Nisenan woman who were native to the area. We have a Black man that's a student at Sac State, which is a predominant item in the area. And then we have a graduating woman with her daughter in front of the Sac State sign, which is a story that we heard a couple times about mothers graduating and having their children there. So we was like, oh, that's definitely, we needed to put that in. There's the Guy West Bridge in the background. And then you got a father and son fishing on the American River. We are getting pretty close to being done. We've got a few more steps to do. I'm going to be out there tomorrow. This is my team. You got Sharon, Jolene, and Annie. And this is the wall up left on Brothers Plumbing. And this was the end of last week where we were at. Getting some things done. I know I got an updated photo this afternoon from Sharon. So there's quite a bit more done, but there is just icing out and like painting a necklace, and just there's a few more things to do. It's like probably a full day on tomorrow, and then hopefully we can do the clear coat on Friday. This was our paint day event that happened a little while ago, and it was a success. It was a lot of fun. You know, it's kind of interesting where you're talking about it, and then you start hearing like from Emily, like, oh, we got 70 people, we got 100 people, now we got 200 people. I'm like, wow, there's gonna be a ton of people out here. And then like right before it started, you have a line for people to get in. And then the next thing you look, and then there's no spots for people to get in to paint. So we had a great day out there. It was a long day in the beating sun, but I think the community really dug what was going on. And, you know, like this project does, people are going to drive by and say like, I worked on that mural, I was a part of that. And hopefully some of these kids are like, this is really cool, you know, and they're turned on to creating muralism or murals. You know, muralism is one of the best things that ever happened to me, because I get to talk to the community. I get to meet the people out there, and we build a bond, and then there's an ownership of what is out in the public. And this is one last piece that I've been working on. This is out in Concord, and it is a wildlife museum that's going to be going or starting next summer. But I'm painting 3 different images. And what's really cool about this is that this is a sculpted wall. It comes off the wall maybe like 3 inches. And it was made out of styrofoam, and then it was fiberglass, then it was stuccoed and then primered. And then I get in there and I'm painting it with bucket paint and a paint sprayer. This is a Utah red rocks. On the other side of the building, I'm doing an Africa scene. And then on the front of the building, there is a Tajakasan mountain range. And so, yeah, I'm pretty excited about all the projects that I have worked on, that I am working on, and what I'm about to be working on. But I feel like I'm very lucky that I get to do what I love, and I get to meet great people. So I want to say thank you to my D6 team, Jolene, Sharon, and Annie. I want to say thank you to Donald, Emily, and Katie for all their help getting things squared away and getting things done. I want to say thank you to all the community leaders that we met on Zoom, and all the people that helped out making this project happen for the paint day and the community day. And I want to thank Tim at Brothers Plumbing for letting us paint on his wall. And I am down to take some questions right now. So if you would like, I am ready for questions.
Awesome. Well, terrific presentation, John. Thank you for like that complete arc of you know, how you got into this work and the work that you're doing today. So I mean, I think that's exactly what we were hoping for, really. And the one that you're working on right now at that museum is just breathtaking. I can imagine, given the scale of those kind of cliff formations, that, you know, kind of standing there is kind of like just awe-inspiring to be, you know, in that space.
It is windy, really windy, 40 feet up in the air. And I don't get queasy when I'm up on stuff, but there were a few times when you're like swaying back and forth and you're just like, okay, look, what can I grab onto? When's this gonna stop?
The scissor lift is kind of swaying a
exactly.
little bit. Yeah. You're like, oh, okay. Do I want to be wearing my some kind of harness here?
Yeah. Do I need to hook in on this one?
Yeah. Well, really cool. So let's see if there are any questions. If not, I have a few questions I can pepper you with.
I'm ready.
All right, I will start then. I'm just trying to see if I can see the chat here. For some reason, the chat is not coming up. Okay, yeah, see, here we go. Here's a question. Will you repeat the name of the museum in Concord? Also, what is the timeline like on a project like that? That's from Gregory.
The museum doesn't have a name yet. The person that's putting together, his name is Sino, and I feel like he has casinos, he has land development. It's an investor that's been around the world collecting artifacts. And I mean, this place is huge on the inside. And it's yeah, it should be opening next summer.
Awesome. So I really liked also that you showed, some of your studio work and how you kind of entered into, working as an artist full time and trying to make those decisions. I wondered if you could talk just a little bit about, in working with clients, or in the case of the program here, kind of working with community stakeholders, let's say, in terms of your collaboration. Could you distinguish a little bit? I thought that project that you talked about I think it was Danville, where they wanted stick figures drinking wine. And I just love the fact that you said, you know what, let me come over, let me see your space. So maybe you just talk a little bit about, that kind of interaction with clients, and then also how you felt like the interaction with the community members for the project here. How does that, how do you approach that experience?
If I'm under the impression, if they are coming to you or you're selected, there's a reason your artwork is going to fit into what is going to be wanted. Like the guy, for instance, who was just interested in walking by and was like, hey, what's going on here? Oh, you got cool artwork. We want stick figures drinking wine and stuff like that. I'm like, well, okay. Let me just take a look, and see what you got, because I might have an idea and you like my artwork. Give me one shot, I'm not against doing that. But I would rather make something that, has a little bit more expression, a little bit more detail.
And a little more of your voice, right? Like you're not necessarily
exactly
doing paintings of stick figures drinking wine.
But then there's also another side when you're hired for a gig, and then there are things that people want, and you have to see, how is my work going to fit into what somebody hired me to do? That I think it's pretty close, but there is some malleable part in there. And I feel like some people say, like, John, you're kind of all over the place with how your artwork is. And I was like, well, I'm glad I have the ability to do different things, because that gives me more options for people to hire me for commissions, paintings, murals. If I don't have that ability and somebody's like, I want you to make a likeness of a face, so I'm like, oh, I can't do that. Well, I don't get that job then, So it's always neat to have some malleable parts in your repertoire.
Absolutely. Yeah. But it's always also important that you do feel like your creative voice is coming out in it, unless it's very clear that you're just being hired to paint exactly what the client wants, and they show you a picture and they say, this is what I want, and then I want a little bit extra blue in there, and in that case, I mean, if you're getting paid and you want to do that job, you do that job. But I think it's nice that for the most part, it's a little bit of that negotiation, like you were talking about, where you bring your own creative voice to the table, because ultimately that's why they wanted you in the first place.
Exactly.
So no, that's really good. Also wanted to just ask you about, in terms of your studio work, do you find, now that you're doing so many murals, do you find that you're carving out time for separate paintings as much, or are you finding now that you really do like to just predominantly do pieces on site at different locations?
I still come home and paint. I'll be tired. It's cooking in my garage, but I'm like, just put 2 colors down in a rules of 3 composition. And then you're like, oh my God, I already have this chubby little bird squatting in a nest. I'm like, okay, wow, that didn't take too long. And then I'm probably like, water, go to bed, brush teeth,
But you got some time in the studio and you feel like you finished your day there.
Yeah, I mean, and if it's not in the studio, I put my black book in front of me when I'm in bed, and then my face gets closer to the draw until I'm in front of it,
Right.
sleeping in the book.
Yeah,
So.
good deal. And then my last question for you is what's next after, you're finishing up this project in D6. You've got this big project in Concord that you're still out there, I think, finishing up, and anything on the horizon that we should look out for you to see what's going on?
And so yeah, I am heading up to Seattle to do a 7-pack of murals in the U District. Then I have, right after that, in West Seattle, I have this mural I'm doing of this woman who really is into sea biology. And she's like, I want a picture from the moon looking at Earth, and the moon's craters are an octopus's tentacles. The clouds on Earth are made of sharks. And then there's these, oh man, I'm gonna butcher the name, cephaloids, like these really wiry deep sea bioluminescent little worm things floating around there. So that's an interesting one. And then I've got a potential bee mural in downtown Seattle that would be like in between 2nd and 3rd in like Pioneer Square. It's just, the scaffolding is pricey. And just really hoping me and my buddy Zach nail that one, because it's always nice to have those really good spots, It's like, oh, that's going to be so delicious. Everybody's going to be like, what?
Yeah.
You got up there? How'd you get up there?
Awesome. I love it. Well, that's the last word, John. Looking forward to your projects continuing. Looking forward to seeing the mural on Folsom wrapping up this week, folks. Looks like, so if you haven't been out there, now's the time to go check them out in process. John's going to be wrapping that up soon. So great presentation, John. Thank you so much. And thanks very much to everybody who joined us tonight. Have a good night, everybody. We will have more artist talks coming in June. And we'll check our website. We'll be putting up the flyers very soon and the Eventbrite to get the information for those artist talks. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great night.
Thanks, John.
Take it easy.